All right. Let me fix some settings here. Hold on. There we go. That should be better. Sorry about that. I went and froze up. I had watchers and everything. So I've got my apologies. Anyways, so I was here before. Nobody's watching anymore. So I'll just hope for the best, and maybe some people will show up. I'm just going to keep going. I'm working on these pillars here. 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing here. My apologies. I think I turned my screen off on my phone here, and my phone is my controller. So when I did that, I kind of screwed things up, I guess. All right, now, nice straight lines. Just pull it down. There we go. Looking good. I just dated myself in my head. I said, looking good, Mr. Kata. If you don't know what that is, well, you are younger than me. That's one thing that age has, I suppose, though, right? You get to know things that the younger generations don't. So I'm going to add a little yellow ochre to this, maybe a little bit more white. Create some variation. It's not all exactly the same color, you know. You can paint things in real life. Slow network detected. Well, sorry, this is what you get. I don't know what I was just saying. Anyways, let's add this slightly brighter color here. Let's see. Go straight across there. Always keep looking back at your reference. Your brain will change things all the time on you, even though you'd ask it not to. Your brain is not always your friend. Yeah, that's a good color. I like that. I like it a lot. Alright, we're going to keep that right there. And let's clean that off. I'll add some variation to it in a little while. Some of this I might actually just let it dry, because it's easier to put a dry details on top of it's easier to paint on top of dry stuff, right? I could mix in stuff if I had like blending to do, but I really don't. I have more stuff to put on top of it, so I might leave that one for now. We'll see what I get to. I might be crazy today. Let's see. So I've got to mix this next one over here, and the color is slightly different. It's actually got. It's actually, I'm looking at it. It's got a lot of rust on it, and I'm trying to ignore the rust and see what the color is underneath it. And we're going to start with a black, and I'll put it over here for now. This is ivory black that I use. We'll start with the black. And then we'll add a little bit of white. Let's get it so I can actually see some color here. Now that is not the color that I want, but we got to figure out what color it is that I want. I'm almost tempted to get a little, there's a little red in there. I'm going to add a little bit of this. Oh, this is getting dried up. There's a crust on it, so I just push it over a little bit. And I get to that good stuff underneath. Let me add that to it. It's just getting me a kind of a tint of red in there, and that's really all I want. A slight tint. All right, a little more white. Let's look at that. It's getting close. I kind of like that actually. I'm gonna go with that to start with. You're gonna look at it and it's gonna be like a completely different color than what I just painted there, but it's kind of what I need. So I'll get a little oil on my brush, mix that in there so it's a little bit smoother. And let's go back to the painting. So I'm working on this center one here. Yeah, I like that color. I'm going with it. So I'm just going to paint this one flat color right now. That base color, that was, boy, I painted that probably 2 years ago. I'm just getting back to this year. This is my first long painting in a long time. And I intend to do a number of paintings this year. We'll see how that goes. So, and I'm using a Winsor Newton Series 7. This is a size 0 round brush. And I'm being a little gentle with this because I want to make sure I get the edges nice and straight. I gotta get closer to that edge though. Must get closer. So, thanks for joining. Nice to see you here. Oh, that was a little bit of a blooper there. Not bad though. I'll fix that. The trick to straight lines, vertical lines are easy, in my opinion. It's the left and right and diagonal lines that are really more difficult to me. Because you can just pull straight down. You know, if you pull your arm or pull your fingers, you can make a nice straight line just by giving a quick pull. And I know I'm being really slow with this. Because I want to do it right, man. This is my thing. I'm gonna loosen up for the next painting. I think at least the start of it. I was tempted to start today, and I changed my mind because, well, I didn't think I was ready. All right, I'm actually going to paint, I'm tempted to paint the same color over here for this one because I see some of the same color in there. There's a lot of rust on that. So maybe I'll do the rust on one side and this, because this is really just on the left side of that bar. Excuse me. Let's see. Can you see okay if I paint here? Yeah, I guess you can. It's okay. So I'm going to paint the left side of this one. All right, that's actually probably all that I need right there. I'll do a little bit further so I've got some room to blend. Need more paint. I'm trying to get this little, there's a little crevice here of the color underneath that I'm trying so carefully to cover up. I think I got it now. Well, there's a little bit more here and there. There we go. All right. So now I've got to figure out that rust color over there. It shouldn't be too hard. I've got a lot. I mean, look at my palette. I've got all the rust colors are here, right? Every rust color I've got. I don't wear my smock today. I'm being daring. Very daring. All right, so rust. I'm going to start with some burnt sienna, and I know I'm like, there's some wet paint here. I'm just covering right in it. So it's a very rusty kind of color there, right? Except it's a little too, I don't want to say dark or light because I've got a couple colors that I've got to do. I'm going to add some, so that's burnt sienna. I'm going to add some burnt umber to it to darken it up a little bit. And I'm even going to add a little bit of this that I was just working with into there. Let's see what that looks like real quick. And I'm going to add a little bit of black, the ivory black. That might be too much. Let's see. And a touch of white. That kind of mutes it a little bit. Doesn't make it so bright. Or, yeah, that's a decent color there. Okay. So that's a decent color. Let's start working into that rust on that side. So here we go. A little bit of oil on my brush. Dip it back into that paint to get it nice and smooth. And let's go ahead and paint that. It's really the center of this that's darker like this. I know you're looking at this, you're like, ah, that's not the right color. Yes, it is. That's the right color, man. I'm telling you, I wouldn't lie. Not about color. Color is king, man. Color, contrast. That is the ticket to this stuff. All right, now there's a lighter value of that, a much lighter value. So I'm gonna put some white right next to this here, and I'm gonna add some yellow ochre to it. Right, and I'm gonna add. So what I'm gonna do, let me get a little bit of that paint off there. I'm going to start to blend these two things together till I get the value that I want. I think that's where I'm going with this. And I'm going to add a little bit of red to that as well. Red goes a long way, so I'm really careful about how much red I put into things. Let's see that. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. It's a nice color. A little bit of oil on there, as usual, just a touch. Oil seems like you want to use a lot of it sometimes, but you really need to be somewhat sparing with it. So it's going to go over to the side here. And I'll modify it with some blending in a second. Alright, now this is more up here and up top here. And I think I want some, let me wipe that off real quick. Not even cleaning it, I'm just going back into this darker stuff here to get some of that. Because I want to get this down here on the bottom. A little bit of oil on there, it's getting a little, not that it's getting dried, it's just getting hard to push around. It's really what the oil does, is it's there to help you push your paint around. But I'm going to put some different color down here. You push too much paint around, it becomes a mess. So, you know, just be sparing with it. It's not your friend or your enemy, to be honest. It's just oil, and it can make or break how you're doing things. I'm yapping away. Hope you're enjoying my yapping. So I'm just taking my brush and I'm just kind of blending back and forth. It's almost like little X marks I make. And then I just kind of go up and down or left and right, and carefully with the tip of my brush just kind of blend those colors together. And I've got a, this is my small blending brush. I can tap away at this a little bit and kind of blend that together. A little bit more. And what I've always been saying with this painting is that, you know, I realize that I might not be doing things perfectly. I don't have to do things perfectly. It's not my job to do things perfectly. It's not your job to do things perfectly. My job is to enjoy what I'm doing, have fun with it, create, bring something to life that no one else has, you know. Over here a little bit. You know, creating is something unique to us, right? We create all kinds of things. We create products and artwork and music and all kinds of things, right? And I suppose we wouldn't be human if we didn't create, right? Let me wipe that off. I'm going to get a little darker color here. So I'm just going to put some ivory black into some stuff that I was working on over here. I never use straight black. If you've watched me before, I will almost never use straight black. I want to have a little bit of other tone in there. I'm just creating a little bit of shadow under these. Sometimes these lights I can't see what I'm doing. So shines off that especially wet paint shines off quite easily, right? All right, let me add some more over here. Yeah, I've started to get away a little bit. I always have the intention of like doing something perfectly, let's say, I have an eye for detail. That's fine. But at some point, it's no longer fun to paint detail, right? I don't think it's necessary either. I could sit here all day and pick a 1-inch square and paint it perfectly, and that 1-inch square would look beautiful. However, I've got a lot of other 1-inch squares that need attention, right? So add detail where it's necessary. If it's not necessary, skip it if you want to. It's okay. It is okay. Let me grab a little bit of this lighter gray. There's some stuff here I want to get in. It's fun to get to this point and I can kind of finally cover up the last of any old stuff that was on there. Let me go back to that black. Any kind of underpainting. I've still got a lot up on this half that I've got to do. But I'm almost to that point where I can go up to that top half. Start plugging away at that. And I think the more I do this, the faster I'm getting at it too. I'm recognizing colors faster. I am getting a little quicker at getting colors on the canvas here. It's not a canvas though, it's a board. I was watching a guy, an artist, I'm assuming he lives in New York City. He was saying he pays $5,000 a month for his apartment. And, $3,000 a month for his apartment and $2,000 a month for his studio. His 400 square foot studio, which is probably the size of my little space here. He pays $2,000 a month for that tiny little space, and he has to share it with 2 other people. It's just insane. I told him it's time for him to start looking at houses. If he's saying he's selling artwork for $10,000 a pop, and the galleries are taking half that. I'm going to add a little detail over here. The galleries are taking half that, and he barely has enough to live off of. Well, you got to use your money more wisely, if you ask me. Right? Dark up here. I told him my mortgage is half of your overall rent. I haven't sold artwork in years. That is about to change, though. That is about to change drastically. Next year, it's going to be insane. This brings what I would consider my sellable collection. Let's see, this one would bring it up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, This would bring it up to 5. I need at least 10 pieces. I'm gonna go for more like 15 or 20 for by the time I get to next year, and we'll see how that goes. All right, step back, take a look where you're at. You know, if you're happy with it, clap your hands. If you're not happy with it, do a little repair work here and there. I want this to be darker up here. And I'll add a little bit over here too. This is going to have to be darker eventually, so let's just get some of that shadow in there now. Smudge here. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that so far. I'm tempted to get some of that rust color into this, but I'm going to let that dry and I'll put that rust color on top. So, the only other thing that I've got to do in this section besides those pillars is add a little bit of shading onto those onto these kind of yellowish orangey stuff up here. So let's do that real quick. That shouldn't take too long. I'm really probably going to use like a glaze, like a really thinned out something or other. So this here is the color that I was using to create those things. So I wonder if there's any wet paint on this. Most of this is pretty dried up. If I pull it off, if I pull that dried skin off, a lot of times there's wet paint underneath there. So let's see what happens. I think I actually have some on my. Let's see what that looks like. Get a little bit of oil on there. This is going to be thin anyway, so I can put a lot of oil on. Yeah, see, it's there. I got color. I'm going to add a little bit of red to that. And I need to add a little bit of darkness to it. I'm going to add some raw umber. More raw umber. Darker still. Over here, Jacques Clouseau. He was an explorer. Went under a sea explorer, underwater explorer. There we go. That's the color I'm looking for right there. A little dark. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to get a bunch of oil actually on my brush, and I'm going to oil that up. This is one of those cases where I don't mind adding some oil. I want it to be kind of thin, but I also want it to stick. If you thin it out too much, you're gonna have dripping oil. You don't want that. All right, so let's go back over here. Let's test that out a little bit and see how that looks. It should kind of show through a little bit, so it's not gonna. It's gonna be kind of transparent because it's nice and thin, which is what I want. I don't want to. I'm not looking to cover up the work that I've got here. I'm going to add a little bit more oil to that actually. I don't want to cover up the work. I just want to darken it slightly, very slightly. So I'd call this like a glaze. And hopefully that glaze doesn't run. So now I can kind of gauge how far down should I be putting that glaze. I can just kind of get it in there. I don't have to be too precise with it, which is nice. And it'll add some depth to the painting in general, because it'll help this platform, which overhangs that slightly, to kind of pop out a little bit. And we'll put a little bit up here. And hopefully you can see this enough that you can understand what I'm doing here. Like I said before, if you're here watching, I'd love to know a little bit about who you are, where you're from. My name's Jason. I live in the Northeast United States. And this is my lunch break. I come here on Fridays. I made a little mistake, but I'm going to clean that up in a second. I come here on Fridays during my lunch and paint. And if you like to watch people paint, I hope you join me sometimes. It's a pleasure to have you here today. It is a cold day here in New England. It was beautiful Monday, Tuesday this week. I actually worked outside Monday and Tuesday. Brought my computer outside to a table I've got out there, and it was great. I'm going to do that a lot more this year. If it's not too hot, of course. Once it gets too hot, then I'll stay inside. I see a little bit of maybe darker here. Maybe a little bit more here. I'll blend this out a little bit once I finish. That looks so much better already. I'm very happy with that. Very happy. It just makes that look better. So let's see. What else is going on? I was working on some computer stuff. My job is semi-graphic designer, manager of a corporate learning environment. So I help engineers teach other engineers stuff. I'm not an engineer, but I know how to put information together. So that's what I was doing today. Was doing some new stuff with that, and I'm in the middle of creating a sort of a program to help me track information better. And I've actually been kind of enjoying it. So part of me wants to get back to doing that, but I'm also really enjoying this at the moment. I've had a lot of progress over the last week or two, so I feel like this is worth doing lately. I don't always feel like that. Sometimes painting is hard. I mean, painting's always hard in my opinion. You know, it doesn't have to be. There's plenty of people out there who are painting and they just enjoy it, whether it's a struggle or not. I always feel like it's a struggle, I guess. But that's me, you know. Part of me says painting should feel like a struggle, you know. It should feel hard. It should feel like there's some pain involved, I guess. All right. Get a little bit down here too. Now, I'll clean that off. Hope I'm not getting paint on my shirt. Like I said, I didn't wear my smock. So here's the test. Any paint? All right, we're good. Nice. Love it when things work and I don't make a mess of myself. So here's my my blending brush. I'm just gonna kind of dab away at that a little bit and make sure it blends a little bit. I don't want it to be a hard edge kind of thing. So anywhere where I see it's kind of not as soft as I'd like, I'll kind of just dab away. And it's so thin, you're probably not going to see this on the video, but just dab away a little bit. Pull it down where you need to. You can probably wipe it completely off if you dab too much. Is it already getting... Oh, goodness. Time flies. I've been here for 45 minutes already. I screwed up the beginning of this recording, but whatever, of the video. Time flies. All right, let's back up and take a look. I am so happy with that tiny little thing that I just did. Adding just a little bit of shadow can just, boom, make things pop. That looks nice. Yep. There's a little bit more that I wanted to, like, maybe I'll even do that now. In these, behind these pipes, there's like some little rocks on the ground in there. I don't think I want to like paint them in, like really paint them, but I think I want to put some little dabs of suggestions of some rocks and debris back there. I think. And what else? There's a little something here. There's a little, you know, I could add detail all day long. At some point, I gotta say, all right, I've added enough detail, and move on. I've got a few minutes, so I'll do that a little bit. Here's my brush that I was using. I like this brush. Winsor Newton Series 7. I've got several of these, and they are 100% my favorite brushes. Where's my good one? I don't know where. Oh, here it is. So I've got, this is my big one. So this is a Series 7 number 6. So it's a much larger brush, but with that big brush, I can get the tiniest little mark out of. I don't tend to use it too often because it's a little bit big. Maybe I'll use a little bit more in my next painting, but we'll see. I think next week though, next week I'm gonna get crazy. Next week, I think I might pull out a new canvas and work on a couple paintings at a time. Not at the same time, but I'll kind of go back and forth. All right, so in here I see little bits of stuff here and there. I'm going to try to use some of the paint that I just used. I might actually even mix some of the stuff together. Let's see where that gets me here. Yeah, that's fine. And in here, there's just little bits of, I don't want them to stand out like at all. I just want them to sort of, I just want there to be debris back there, just a little bit, because it's there, right? It doesn't need to be, and you probably can't even see what I'm doing right now because it's so similar in color. I just need a little bit of stuff, but I'm going to add some black in here too, so that'll give me some contrast. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of white to that, I think. There we go, that's better. There's even something, there's like a little, I don't know what it is. It's a piece of metal or something here. I'm ignoring that thing. I don't need it. I don't need to do everything. I just need to do enough to make some things stand out a little bit, that's all. And these little bits of rock, they're so easy to do. Like, I don't even care if they're the right shape. I just care there's something there beyond what I've already put there. I can put something there. Maybe there's something already there. All right, now I'll go into my black here. So I had this color earlier. I'm just going to use it again. That's this one right here. And I'm just going to hit up some little spots here and there, just to give some of those little pieces some shadow. And I'm actually going to mess with it a little bit with my blending brush. And let's see what we got here. Does not matter about perfection here. You can barely see this stuff in the photograph itself, but it will add just enough variation that it's just so important to do. You know what? If you're gonna do this style of painting, if you care about detail, and that's you hear so many variations about what art is and what art isn't. Art is what you want it to be. You know, don't take my word for what art is. Take your own. But being successful as an artist is different than being an artist. You got to be, first and foremost, you got to be happy with what you're doing, right? You got to enjoy that process of creating stuff, right? If you're not happy with it, at the end of the day, I guess I'm never really happy with it, but it's a little hypocritical, I guess. But I do enjoy it. You know, I've been sitting here for 45 minutes. It felt like 5. That's probably my favorite part about painting, is that getting lost in what you're doing it's almost my reason for doing it. Life is hard. Painting is hard, but if I can get lost in a painting, I don't notice life. I don't notice problems. I don't notice politics and stuff like that. The world needs to notice less of that garbage. I notice it plenty. I read the news, like, you know, it is what it is. I can't change it on my own. Some people might disagree with that. At least I don't feel like I've got the power to change it on my own. I can bring awareness to things, I can speak my mind about things, but the reality is that it is what it is. All right, so there were a couple little spots that I thought that I made little blips and bloopers on. Oh yeah, right there, I see it. It's like I thought there was a spot that I had to fix. Because there is, it's right there. So I just put a little turpentine on my brush and I just wipe it away. Simple as that. Now I'm going to take my my blending brush. I'm just going to touch those spots. This is not meant to be in focus back here. This is meant to be just a hint of variation. So I want it to look kind of blurry back there. I want it to be kind of out of focus. So I will just do that a little bit. That's fine there. There's a little blip there that I want to take care of too. Just a tiny little piece of black got on that right there. And that's it. All right. Let's back up and look. happy with that. So next steps are to finish those 3 pillars. I'll probably do that tomorrow because I need them to be dry, and they will take, those colors should dry quickly. If you're not an oil painter already, you're trying oil paints for the first time, oil paints can take a long time to dry. The more oil you put in your paints, the longer they'll take to dry. And different colors will dry faster than others. Browns and grays tend to dry pretty quickly. So usually next day I can go over stuff and it's pretty dry. When I get into the reds up here, that'll take forever to dry. So I've got to be really careful on how I do that. But I'm happy. I think things are coming along nicely. One thing I've been loving doing is I'll take my painting, and I love turning it upside down. So I will turn the painting upside down and kind of block my view for a second, and then I sit back and I take a look at it then. When I do that, it's like looking at a whole new painting, and I can see the depth that I've created. I can see the contrast. I can see the highlights and the shadows. I can see the detail. It's looking good. So really, besides those 3 pillars, that's the section I got to work on right there, between here and there. So that's where I'm at. I'm happy with it. I hope you have enjoyed hanging out with me for a little bit. I'm going to end it there, and thank you for coming in. Let's see, somebody else just joined. I'm about to wrap up and you join now? What the heck? Anyways, I'm here every Friday at noon. If you don't see me on the schedule or whatever, you can, please join my channel, subscribe and all that. And I'm happy to have you. I do this for my own enjoyment, and I'm happy to share it with you. So I love yapping away while I paint, and I love when people kind of come in and say hi. So feel free to do that anytime. And I love to see if you're working on stuff too. So please share, follow me on Instagram, and subscribe here. And that's all I got. So have a great day. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Happy painting. Bye.